We officially have about 20 games left in the Major League Baseball regular season. Less than 20 games, really, and things are rolling. Welcome to Flippin Bats, my friends, where we got a lot to talk about. We got the best pitching performance of the season with about 20 games left to go. We finally got it over the weekend. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was absolutely incredible. We're going to talk about his performance and how it didn't exactly turn out the way the Dodgers were hoping. And Juan Soto has thrown himself smack dab into the middle of the NL MVP conversation. So we're going to have that. What does the NL MVP look like? Should Juan Soto win the award after the way he started the year and where he is currently? Is Juan Soto going to win NL MVP? We last week did top 5 AL teams that I think can win the World Series. So we're going to do top 5 NL teams that I think can win the World Series. It's Monday, which means Power Rankings. We'll do a FanDuel segment as well. We're going to talk about the Mets because the Mets, I think, deserve a lot of credit. It's been a very Mets-like year to this point. What I mean by that is like they have a lot of talent. They've been very good. Then they go make a lot of big trades to really bolster their bullpen, and it has just backfired big time. And then they just went on a nosedive and weren't a very good baseball team, but they are playing better right now. And I think they and the front office deserve a ton of credit for how they have handled things lately. So we're going to talk about that in a little while as well. But remember, Flippin' Bats is presented by FanDuel. Bet baseball with us all season long on America's #1 sports book. Baseball is wild right now. Every division. You look across the American League. Who wants to win? Who wants to win their division? The Tigers in the Central are going to win the division, but it's only because they had a massive, massive lead and still do. They're not playing great baseball. They lost to the White Sox over the weekend. The Blue Jays in the AL East have both teams creeping back up on them, and the Yankees and the Red Sox. Good Lord, the Astros in the AL West just don't want to win it. The Mariners behind them don't want to win it. It's just been a mess. Who wants to win? NL West, the NL West, the Dodgers and the Padres just seemingly can't win baseball games besides the last couple of days they finally started winning again, but both of them just blowing opportunities to take the lead in the division. The Dodgers keep holding on to it, but man, who wants to win that division? Over the weekend, Saturday, we got the best pitching performance all season long, and the Dodgers end up not winning that game. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was 1 out away from a no-hitter. 1 out away. Final at bat, 8 2/3, 0 hits. Jackson Holliday comes up and hits a homer, a home run to end the no-hit bid, which is tough. Departs the game 3-1, 1 out away from a victory. Best performance on the mound all year in 2025, and the Dodgers blew it. I would say I couldn't believe it, but I can. I've watched it all year long with my brother with the Giants. It happened again in his last start. Departed 2-0, goes into the final inning 2-0. Dude, Ryan Walker blows it. Game over. It's been tough watching teams try and close out games lately, but Yamamoto was fantastic. 10 strikeouts, 112 pitches, seventh Dodgers pitcher in history with a 1-out performance with 10 plus strikeouts and at least 8 2/3 innings pitched. Seventh Dodgers pitcher in history. That's quite the history. Yamamoto is, I'm going to say, quietly one of Major League Baseball's greatest pitchers. And why I say quietly is because I think when we talk about the game's great pitchers, Yamamoto is mentioned a tick below the Tarek Skubals, Paul Skeens. Now, I think everyone's a tick below those guys. But even this next bit of a tier of like Zach Wheeler, Chris Sale when he hasn't been injured over the last couple of years, he's sort of mentioned a little bit below that tier. And I think Yamamoto deserves a ton of credit for since he's come into the big leagues. Let's not forget, this is year 2 in Major League Baseball. His transition from NPB to Major League Baseball has been stellar. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the first Dodgers pitcher to lose a no-hit bid with 2 outs in the ninth since Dazzy Vance in 1923, when the club was known as the Brooklyn Robins. That's how dominant Yamamoto was. So I think he deserves a ton of credit, and I think he deserves his love and his flowers. Since 2024, since Yoshinobu Yamamoto entered the league, he is fifth in ERA among starting pitchers with a minimum of 240 innings pitched. He's one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball since the moment he entered the league. He's fifth behind Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler, and then there's Yamamoto. That's incredible. That's how good he's been. So, look, I know everyone thinks Yamamoto is a really good pitcher, but we need to get out of that really good pitcher conversation. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is one of the game's greats, and he's continued to pitch like that all year long. He pitched like it over the weekend, one pitch away from throwing his first career no-hitter. Unfortunately, it ended about as bad as it possibly could have. He gave up a homer. He comes out of the game. The bullpen blows it. The Dodgers lose. And it's just like, what just happened? But what I want to make sure we all remember happened is that Yoshinobu Yamamoto dominated. He deserves a lot of credit. I don't want the story to be about the Dodgers blowing that game because Yamamoto was fantastic. Good on him. And then the very next day, the Dodgers finally end their losing streak. Shohei comes out, leads off with a homer. He starts the game going 2 for 2 with 2 homers and then walked 3 straight time. First Dodgers player to do that since 1952. 2 homers and 3 walks in a game. Shohei put the team on his back and said, now we go. Now it's time to go. Hit his 48th homer of the season on Sunday. And still right there when it comes to the NL MVP. But that is a conversation that I wanted to have. As NL MVP, Juan Soto has forced this conversation to happen. Juan Soto has forced everyone to put his name in the NL MVP conversation. Juan Soto has thrown himself smack dab in the middle of the NL MVP conversation. What he has done, now let's not forget, this guy was not an all-star this year. Was he the biggest snub? I think so. But it's because he wasn't putting up his usual numbers. Juan Soto was not an all-star this year. And now he's on pace to do something that no New York Met has ever done, which is 40 homers and 30 stolen bases. And he's on pace to do something that's only been done a couple of times in history and hasn't been done since Jeff Bagwell in 99 and Barry Bonds in 97, which is 40 homers, 30 stolen bases, 100 runs scored, 100 RBIs, and 100 walks in the same season. That stat line has only been done a couple of times and has not been done this century. Juan Soto, as we speak, has an on-base percentage over 400. He's got 5 homers in his last 5 games. Offensively, he's absolutely killing it. But one thing I did want to mention and give him a lot of credit for is one of those stat lines that I just mentioned, and it's the 30 stolen bases. He's going to steal 30 bases this year. He's at 29. He's going to get to 30. Speed Demon Juan Soto has arrived in 2025. Well, not really, because he's in the 15th percentile in sprint speed in Major League Baseball. And this is why I think he deserves a ton of credit. He didn't all of a sudden just become this freaky fast player to pair with his all-time offensive prowess. Where he deserves a ton of credit is that he has been exceptional, reading pitchers, doing his scouting before games, and getting incredible jumps. I think he gives a lot of credit to their first base coach, Anton Richardson, who was really good at stealing bases in the big leagues himself. But we're not talking about a guy that's just offense, and he's really good at it and nothing else. I know everybody likes to hate on him for his defense and how slow he is. He's going to steal 30 bases this year. That's not a number to bat an eye at. His career high before this year was 12. He's going to steal over 30 bases this year. It's not because he got fast. It's because he is in the video room every day before the game with his first base coach looking for tells from a pitcher. And where I think this is really interesting, and where, again, I will continue to say he deserves a ton of credit, is because he's just decided this year that, look, I'm going to be a force on the bases. I might not be the fastest guy, but when you really dive in, the majority of pitchers are going to have a tell. And that's what he's going off of. If a pitcher doesn't have a tell, he's not stealing bases. He's not going to steal it with speed. He's going to steal it with all the research he's doing behind the scenes. So what that means is a lot of pitchers have a tell. They show you in a way when they are going to the plate and when they are about to pick over. So you dive in before the game, and let's say there's a left-handed pitcher on the mound. Maybe he lifts his head up first when he's going to pick over. When he lifts his leg, he's also lifting his head up. That means he's coming over. If he doesn't do that, if his head or chin stays down, he's going to the plate. If it's a righty, they have a tell when they're coming to pick over as well. Maybe they buckle their front knee, which is technically a balk move, but people do it all the time. Buckle their front knee when they come over. Maybe the same way that offensive play. There's a million different tells. The same way that guys in the dugout or hitters pick up something that a pitcher is doing when he's tipping his pitches. They do the same thing when they're picking over or going to the plate when a runner's on first base. So Juan Soto's in the video room before games, the night before, doing a ton of research, picking up on those pitchers' tells with runners on base, and he's saying, okay, this guy has one. I'm going to go here. I am going to run. And what everyone on this team is saying that is doing this, with a lot of credit to Richardson, is it's not a gamble. It's essentially a quote that I saw from Jared Young was, it's essentially like counting cards in a casino. It doesn't mean I'm going to win 100% of the time, but it's not a 50-50 gamble. I know what's happening. I've done my research. The pitcher does this. If this happens, I'm going to go. Am I going to make it to second base safely 100% of the time? No, but I feel really good about my chances. And entering this new month, we're about a week in, but I haven't looked up the stats recently, but I think Juan Soto's only been caught stealing one time. He's got 29 stolen bases and only been caught once. They're not gambling. It's not a 50-50. I'm 15th percentile in sprint speed. I'm going here. No, he's doing his research. He's getting good jumps. And when I say good jumps, I mean like sometimes he's halfway to second base when the pitcher releases the ball. There are just specific pitchers that don't like pitching over once they get to a certain spot in their coming set. I was the same way. Once I came set and was set for a couple of seconds, if I was going to pick, I always did it early. Look, I know it's not the way to go, but pitchers have tells, and Juan Soto's picking up on them, and he deserves a ton of credit for being able to do that. So we're talking about a guy with a historic stat line that's only been done a couple times in an entire career. And I think Juan Soto is absolutely in this MVP conversation right now. And I think Juan Soto absolutely wins most valuable player if Shohei Ohtani wasn't playing baseball. Any other time, Juan Soto is absolutely the NL MVP. But not when Shohei Ohtani exists. And you could say, and before you start saying, wait a second, is it just because Shohei pitches and hits? Like, I get he's back on the mound, but he's not going like 7-8 innings and dominating. Well, he is back on the mound. He is throwing well. And it's not just because he's pitching as well. Juan Soto is now third in offensive value in the National League, just behind Schwarber. I mean, he has skyrocketed to the top of this list. Kyle Schwarber is at 39.6 in offensive value, and Juan Soto is at 39.2. They are both well behind the leader in the NL in offensive value, and that is Shohei Ohtani at 51. When it just comes to offensive value, there is nobody in the National League close to Shohei Ohtani. He is also pitching, starting every 6 days or so, once a week, going out there, throwing well over 100 miles an hour. No starting pitcher has thrown over 100 more times this year than Shohei Ohtani. His numbers are good. His ERA is finally coming down. His advanced analytics are fantastic. He's continuing to do what Shohei Ohtani does best. This year, This is a statistic of the most home runs by an MLB player in a season where he also pitched at least 3 games. 2025 Shohei Ohtani sitting at 48 home runs. 2021 Shohei Ohtani 46. 2023 Shohei Ohtani 44. 2022 Shohei Ohtani 1919 Babe Ruth at 29 homers and 2018 Shohei Ohtani at 22 homers. The only way Shohei Ohtani doesn't win the most valuable player award for the third time in a row and the fourth in his career is if voter fatigue exists. This is the greatest player we've ever seen. Shohei Ohtani is going to unanimously win the MVP award, and he should. Juan Soto's having an incredible year, and I really wanted to talk about him because he didn't make the All-Star game. He signed for almost $1 billion. Everybody loves to hate on him, or everybody loves for some reason. We just live in a hateful world. This guy signs for almost $1 billion. He goes to the Mets, and people just hate on him. That's not a player worth all the money. Yeah, it is. Also, it ain't your money. Who are you to say a guy's not worth the money? You don't know what it makes for an organization. If you're just looking at what numbers he brings on the field, you're looking at the conversation all wrong. It's what that player brings to an organization as well. The Dodgers paid Shohei, or over time going to pay Shohei $700 million, and I guarantee you it's already worth it in their mind. World Series in year one, all the Japanese advertisements that they have brought into the organization. It's not just about the numbers on the field. Juan Soto has done wonders for the New York Mets, but his numbers on the field scream MVP. He's been fantastic. So it's not just because Shohei pitches and hits. It's because Shohei's offensive value is elite. He pitches really well as well. What he does for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, Shohei's the unanimous MVP, but Juan Soto absolutely is in that conversation. And I do now think he finishes second with everything, all the stolen bases, and he does play defense. Schwarber doesn't play a ton of defense, DHs a lot. Juan Soto been playing really well. Let's keep talking about the Mets for a second, because this is something I was thinking about over the weekend when I watched what they were doing with their starting pitching rotation. I'm so happy for Mets fans, and that's not something I think people would like. Wait a second, what do you mean they're not going to win the division? Here's why I'm happy for Mets fans. You can just feel that the organization is doing things differently. They called up their top prospects, 3 of them: Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, Nolan McLean. Nolan McLean is filthy. Nolan McLean's going to win a Cy Young Award in his career, I believe. Well, he's got to get out of the same league as Paul Skeens. That could be tough. But at some point, Nolan McLean is going to win a Cy Young Award. They call those 3 guys up. They send down Kodai Senga, who I love, but it's time for him to figure it out. He's got to go figure it out, and he couldn't do it in the big leagues. Go down, get a start or 2 under your belt, and come back. We need you. These aren't easy decisions for an organization to make. They called up their numbers 4, 5, and 6 prospects all in the span of 3 weeks. Tong, Sproat, and McLean. These aren't easy decisions to make, but dang it, if you can pitch, you can pitch. And the New York Mets need you right now. And they did that. It takes guts to do what they did. It takes guts to call up 3 of your top prospects in the middle of a playoff push and say, all right, we actually need you in back-to-back-to-back days. You're going to be our starters. And it's going well. These guys, if the Mets do damage in the playoffs, it's going to be because these 3 guys have continued to step up and be good for them. And I truly think it's revitalized, it's shot some energy into the Mets. This team is good. These pitching prospects are good. They're running them out there in games that they absolutely need to win. And I just think I'm just happy for Mets fans, because these aren't easy decisions to make. It's so easy for an organization to sit back and claim and call up one. Look, Nolan McLean was ready. He's the best of the bunch right now. But it's so easy for an organization to sit back and say, no, development. I know, but I know we need to win right now, but we also want to prioritize the next 5 to 7 years. No, look, these guys are big league ready. If you can pitch, you can pitch. Come on up. Let's roll. And I think it's been a huge decision for the organization to make. They deserve a ton of credit. And I think they can do some damage with these guys in the rotation. So the Mets are calling up their young studs, three in the span of 3 weeks. And I just wanted to give them some credit for being able to do that because it ain't the easy decision to be able to make. But it's been fun. It's fun to watch. They're nasty. We record this on Mondays and it comes out Monday afternoon. By the time this episode releases, Nolan McLean will be on the mound in Philadelphia pitching against the Phillies. And to just show you how good, how dominant he is, the Mets on FanDuel Sportsbook are favored to win the game when it's Nolan McLean against Aaron Nola on the mound. I know Aaron Nola hasn't exactly been himself, but look, it's Nolan McLean for the Mets against Aaron Nola of the Phillies in Philadelphia, and the New York Mets are favored to win that game. McLean has been nasty. If you're listening right now and that game's still on and he's still on the mound, turn it on. His stuff is disgusting. Jason Benetti, when he pitched against the Tigers the other day, Jason Benetti was dumbfounded. He was like, what is this guy throwing? This is insane. And it's true. He's gross. Good on the Mets. Let's have the top five teams that can win the World Series in the NL conversation. Last week, we did the top five in the AL, in the American League, top five teams that I think can win. And this week, we're going to do top five teams in the National League. So let's start with number five. I am going to go with the New York Mets. And I think if this conversation were to happen a month ago, I don't know if they would be, because they were just on an absolute downward spiral free fall. But they're playing better. Soto's one of the best players on the planet right now. Pete Alonso and Soto in the middle of that lineup. The pitching rotation, they need Kodai Senga. If the Mets are going to win the World Series, they can't do it without Kodai Senga coming back up and being elite. They're not going to win the World Series with Tong, Sproat, McLean. They're not. But they can do some damage in the playoffs. They need Kodai Senga to figure it out and come back up and be the leader of that rotation, and then the offense fall into place. And the bullpen, this is why I have them at 5. I would have them higher. At the trade deadline, I probably would have had them higher because they went out and added a bunch of pieces. Ryan Helsley has been awful. Ryan Helsley, since being traded from the Cardinals to the Mets, has over an 11 ERA. Over an 11 ERA. So bullpen's got to figure it out and be as good as I think they can be. But man, they have not been good. Tyler Rogers in the back end as well hasn't been as dominant as he always is with the Giants. But we'll see. But I have concerns. Kodai Senga needs to be better. Back into the bullpen needs to be far, far, far better. But I have the Mets at 5. At number 4, people are gonna be mad at me. At number 4, I'm going the Milwaukee Brewers, the team with by far the best record in the game of baseball. The Brewers aren't winning the World Series. They have a very good team, but I just don't think the front office puts their team and their roster in a position to win a championship. They always do just enough, but they never make the big splash. And when it comes to playoff time, when it comes to not trying to win over the course of 162 and building a really good rotation with Jacob Mizorowski and Freddie Peralta, who's unbelievable, and Quinn Priester, who's been fantastic, and Quintana and Brandon Woodruff, it's a very good starting rotation. When it comes to winning over 162, they got it figured out. But when it comes to winning in the playoffs, I don't look at this roster where instead of at the trade deadline adding a big bat offensively, they did just enough. They added Andrew Vaughn, who was on a historic tear when he started there, but has come back down to earth a little bit. So I don't look at this lineup. I don't look at the roster as a whole and say, oh, these guys compete with the big dogs. I think if we were to go into a series, playoffs start tomorrow, Dodgers, Brewers line up in the playoffs. Brewers beat them every single time in the regular season this year. Dodgers would be favored to win that series. Phillies, Brewers. Brewers are the best team in baseball all year long. I bet you the Phillies would be favored to win that series. And it's because these teams I'm talking about are built differently than the Brewers. And I do blame the front office a little bit. And this isn't Moneyball what they're doing. It's not. But I've had this conversation a lot in the past of how I don't believe quote unquote Moneyball or this new age version of it, which is essentially like analytics ball. I think it's just all a way to skirt around spending money. And I think the Brewers do that. I don't think they go all in spending money. I think this team is good enough to win a World Series with a couple of added pieces here and there. But I don't think they do that. And I think that is good enough to win in the regular season. It's good enough to make you the best team in the regular season, winning over the course of 162 games. But I don't think it wins championships. Everyone loves the movie Moneyball. Fantastic movie. It just skirts right over the fact that they got their doors blown off late in the playoffs. The Rays adopted Moneyball and like blended it to become analytics forward. They don't win championships. They've gotten there. They dominate in the regular season for a decade. They get there, but it doesn't win championship. And that's how I feel about this Brewers team. And people are going to be mad, and Brewers fans are going to come after me, but I don't think this team that's going to be the best team over the course of 162 in the regular season, I don't think this team is good enough to win the World Series. The Brewers will not win the World Series. And it's because I don't think the front office puts this team in a position enough when it becomes playoff time to be as dominant as they can be. They have the writing. They have the makings. They have the blueprint. They have a really good rotation. They have really young, good studs paired with really good veterans and Christian Yelich and I love Jackson Chourio and Turang and everything they're doing. But I just feel like they have the roster, and then at a certain point, it's up to the front office to say, we have the roster. Here's this piece. Now let's go win a World Series. But I constantly feel like they're making the move that's just enough, but not enough to get it done in October. So I have the Brewers at 4. I don't think they're winning the World Series. Put it on record. Write it down. Bookmark it. Whatever you do. If the Brewers win the World Series, I'd be shocked. They're a team that's very, very good. This isn't hating on the Brewers by any means. If anything, it's hating on the front office for not putting them in a better position year in and year out. Brewers at 4. At number 3, I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres. I believe the Padres are a very good team. They're not clicking on all cylinders right now, but that doesn't matter. Get going by October. They're going to get in the playoffs. Is it going to be winning the NL West? I don't know. As we speak right now, they're one game back of the Dodgers in the NL West. Both of them are playing like poop. But let's talk rosters. Offensively, 1 through 9, they are extremely deep. The top of the Dodgers lineup is better than the top of the Padres just because of all the MVPs. But the Padres lineup is probably deeper. Rotation-wise, not quite as good as the Dodgers, but a good rotation. Bullpen is the best in baseball, even with Jason Adam going down, which is extremely unfortunate. But the back end of their bullpen is fantastic. A good rotation, a really deep lineup. This team has everything it needs to win a championship. The Padres are really good. The environment in San Diego is top tier, top notch. If we get a Dodgers-Padres playoff series, man, that would be absolutely electric. The NL playoffs are just going to be absolutely electric. There's no way around it. It's going to be fantastic to watch these teams in the playoffs. The Padres absolutely deserve to be considered a World Series frontrunner. And that's why I have them at 3. At number 2, another team that should be a World Series frontrunner, the Philadelphia Phillies. The reason I don't have them at 1 is because they lost Zach Wheeler for the year. I would have the Phillies at 1. I obviously haven't yet made my my World Series predictions. Every year I like to stick with my preseason pick when it comes playoff time for my playoff bracket just to keep the vibes rolling. It ain't going to happen this year. I picked the Braves, and I promise you it ain't going to be the Braves. I I still might pick the Phillies to win it all because they're very good, but I would have the Phillies at number one on top five NL teams that can win the World Series if Zach Wheeler was still healthy. It's a huge blow. It talked about it with John Smoltz. It's just a massive, massive blow to that team. But they still have a good rotation. Their offense is still elite. I have back into the bullpen worries, but I do have the Phillies here at two because I think they're one of the more complete teams in the game of baseball that's now just missing their horse of an ace. And whenever that happens, you're going to take a bit of a step back. But I have the Phillies at number two, leaving at number one the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are playing pretty bad baseball right now. They got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates early last week, and then they lost the weekend series to the Baltimore Orioles. It's been a bad stretch. They are grasping at straws, holding on to the NL West because the Padres haven't been playing great either. But this isn't a how are we playing right now sort of conversation. This is when it comes to the playoffs. And the Dodgers are going to be favored to win the World Series. I don't necessarily care about that. This is my list. This is my thoughts. I wouldn't have the Brewers at four if it was where are these teams going to be ranked. The Brewers are going to be ranked far, far higher than four. But the Dodgers are going to be the favorite to win. And it's because, look, it's not just because they won last year. It's because starting rotation-wise, the conversation isn't what do they do with their rotation for how do you start the games. It's what do you do with the rotation is and who do you bump out? They have five legitimate starters for four playoff spots. You have studs everywhere you look. Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, Ohtani. Kershaw's been pretty good. And then obviously the offense is fantastic. The back end of the bullpen is another worry and concern. So they have their weaknesses as well. But with that rotation and with Zach Wheeler being out, I had to put the Dodgers here at number one. They're, of course, a team that can win the World Series in the National League. I get why they're the favorites. Anything can happen in the postseason. I don't think the gap is that wide between them and the Phillies and the Padres. Any one of those three teams, I think, can absolutely represent the NL in the World Series. But I'm going to go with the Dodgers at one just because of the MVPs in that lineup. They have the greatest player of all time in Shohei Ohtani. They have a nasty rotation. They have good arms in the back end of the bullpen, which I think play in the playoffs. They haven't exactly figured it out all year long, but they have dominant, nasty stuff in the back end of the bullpen. And I think they'll step up in October. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But my top five teams that can win the World Series, at five is the Mets, four is the Brewers, three is the Padres, two is the Phillies, and one is the Dodgers. I did AL last week. If you missed it, go back and listen to last Monday's episode where I talked through my top five AL teams that can win the World Series. But for now, this show rolls on. It's Monday. That means new and improved power rankings. And there is a team still climbing towards the top of these power rankings right now. We're going to talk through them. Let's talk through this week's power rankings. At number 10, staying the same, is the Houston Astros. The Astros are 2.5 games up in the AL West, but it's not because they're playing great. The Mariners are also not playing great. The Astros did split a series with the Yankees early in the week and then lost to the Rangers over the weekend. Just going to keep them the same. They are not playing great. Not a great week either, but they're certainly a top 10 team, I think. There's a gap between 10 and the rest of the league. And number 9, staying the same, the Boston Red Sox. 3.5 games back in the AL East. They won the series against the Guardians, lost the series to the Diamondbacks, so they're going to stay put right here at 9. At number 8, the Chicago Cubs, also staying the same this week. They're 7.5 games back in the NL Central. The Brewers are probably going to win the Central. The Cubs lost the weekend series to the Nationals. They won early in the week against the Braves, but in just not a great week, keeping them the same as well. At number 7, down one spot, the Detroit Tigers. They're 8.5 games up in the AL Central, but they lost both series on the week. First one to the Mets, and then they lost the weekend series to the White Sox. I have continually, all of you know this, I root for the Tigers. I want the Tigers to be good. I'm a little bullish on the Detroit Tigers. I've had them a little lower in my power rankings than a lot of the other major markets that do it. Major League Baseball, their rankings, everyone really. I have them a little lower. Their record is fantastic. They're going to win the Central, but they're a 500 baseball team since the All-Star break. They have their big concerns. I don't look at this team and think, oh, this team, when you get into the playoffs, watch out. Of course, when you have Tarek Skubal, that will be a conversation. John Smoltz picked them as his number one team he thinks will win the American League. I just worry about that rotation. I worry about the offense in October. I worry about a back end of the bullpen that Kyle Finnegan is injured, and the rest of the bullpen hasn't been fantastic. They have big weaknesses. I'm a little bullish than most on the Tigers, and maybe it's just because I'm close to them and I want them to be better. I have them at 7, down 1 spot after a bad week. At number 6, down 3 spots, the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're up 1 game in the NL West. They lost 5 in a row this past week. They got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates and then lost 2 of 3 to the Baltimore Orioles. Brutal week. They ruined Yamamoto's no-hit bid. Well, he ruined the no-hit bid. He gave up a homer with 2 in the ninth. But they ruined his win. How do you blow that game? It's just been a brutal stretch for the Dodgers. I bumped them down 3 spots. At number 5, down 1 spot, I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres. I did bump them back ahead of the Dodgers. They're 1 game back of the Dodgers in the NL West. They beat the Colorado Rockies. They got swept by the Baltimore Orioles. So won one series, swept, or not swept. They won 1 series, lost 1 series. The Dodgers just had a brutal week. So these two are neck and neck. They've been neck and neck in my power rankings for months. They're neck and neck in the division. Neither are playing fantastic right now, so they're both dropping. The Dodgers just dropping more than the Padres. At number 4, I'm going with the Toronto Blue Jays, up 1 spot, mostly just because the teams behind them are playing awful. Up 1 spot. They're 2 up in the AL East. They lost a huge weekend series to the New York Yankees, losing some ground there. They won earlier in the week to the Cincinnati Reds. So up 1 spot, but not because of anything that they did fantastic on the week. The biggest mover of the week, up to number 3 and up 4 spots, is the New York Yankees. Up 4 this week. They are now just 2 games back of the Toronto Blue Jays. They beat them in the weekend series. They're 7-3 in their last 10 ball games. The Yankees jumped up last week. They jumped up even more this week. That weekend series against the leader in the division was massive. So the Yankees are up to number 3 in the power rankings. With those teams behind them, I had to jump them in front of the Blue Jays because they just beat them on the weekend series. They jumped the Padres. They dumped the Dodgers because those teams are just not feeling it right now. So they're all the way up to number 3. At number 2, the Philadelphia Phillies staying put here at 2. They're 7 games up in the NL East. They're going to win the NL East. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're coasting right now. They're playing good ball. They're going to win the division. They're staying here at number 2. And at number 1, staying the same, the best team, the best record in the game of baseball, 7.5 games up in the NL Central, is the Milwaukee Brewers. They swept the Pittsburgh Pirates on the week. They have the best record in baseball by a good bit. I'm going to keep them the same here at number 1 this week. So 10 through 1. At number 10, we have the Astros. Then there's the Red Sox, Cubs, Tigers, Dodgers. Top 5 is Padres, Blue Jays, Yankees, Phillies, and Brewers. As with every Monday, we do a little FanDuel segment because Flippin Bats is presented by FanDuel, and we're going to do Dinger Tuesday because Tuesdays is Dinger Tuesday on FanDuel Sportsbook, where you get a profit boost. You can boost any one player 50% to hit a homer, and we're going to rock with Bryce Harper this week. Facing Sean Manaea and the Mets, Bryce Harper's 5 for 12 with a homer off of Sean Manaea. They're playing in Philly, where ball flies. Good numbers against an opponent. I think Bryce Harper takes them deep. That's what we're going to rock with this week. Check it out on FanDuel Sportsbook. 50% profit boost for any player of your choice to hit a homer on Tuesdays. Fun show. We're about, depending on the team and the off days, there's about 18 games left in the regular season. We are pushing towards the postseason, my friends, and there are not a lot of divisions that are solidified. AL East still up for grabs. AL West still up for grabs. NL West still up for grabs. 3 of the 6 divisions, we have absolutely no clue what is going to happen, and it all matters big time for playoff seeding and all of that. So really fun show. John Smoltz will be joining a little bit later in the week, as he does every single week. Thank you all for listening. If you didn't listen to Smoltz last week, go back and listen to that one. We talked about his American League pick to get to the World Series. Just a lot of really fun conversations with him last week. So go check that out. I really appreciate you all for listening or watching. Watch us on our YouTube channel. Flippin Bats Pod is our YouTube channel. Go check us out there. Subscribe. Watch the video. Leave a comment. I love hopping in the comments and talking to you guys about an episode or a specific thing within an episode. I always hop in those comments. So check it out on YouTube. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe. That all does really help. Subscribe wherever you're listening as well, Apple, Spotify, wherever. And check us out on all social media, at Flippin Bats Pod everywhere. Fun show, fun week ahead in baseball. 2025, the year of Flippin Bats. What a fun year this has been. I appreciate you all. We're pushing closer to the playoffs, where we're really going to thrive, baby. But until next time, John Smoltz joins in a couple days. Enjoy these next few days of baseball. Until then, remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace. Flippin' Bats is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.